Welcome, everyone, to the Tethys Shipyards. I am Takeshi Yamato, the Yardmaster, joining our host, the Housecoat Gamer.
Yo.
Today we are, well, this one is sort of a hybrid. We're covering a hero ship of the Ambassador class, but we are also doing technically our own version of the class because, well, Ron has an issue with the book stats, particularly the launch year for the class. The Ambassador class. Our hero ship will be the USS Thacher.
Named
Named
after, you guessed it, Margaret Thatcher. Look, if you're gonna be controversial or try and do stupid things in the comments, I'm just gonna delete them. Alright? I don't care
Yeah.
about your leanings. It's just named after her. Get over it.
Yeah. Anyway, I
Now,
suppose first, before we get into any of our variations, I'll cover what the book says in terms of overview and capabilities of the Ambassador. Overview. The Starfleet Exploratory Division and the Federation Science Council began to see a steady decline in scientific returns from deep space missions by the beginning of the 24th century. Starfleet had been relying on Excelsior class and the few Constitution class starships still in service to continue its aims to discovery, but even with the planned refits of those space frames, they still required visits to logistical hubs every 5 years as systems wore down. Utopia Planitia Fleet Yards began to develop a new deep space exploration cruiser that would address these concerns and allow a space frame to go deeper into the unknown. The Ambassador class was developed and launched in 2335, and many of the engineering techniques, design ideas, and technology created for this starship would continue to be refined over the coming decades and become the basis for the Galaxy class. Capabilities. The Ambassador class was designed in a similar way to previous Starfleet cruisers, with a saucer-shaped primary hull and a cylindrical secondary engineering hull. The most obvious difference is the then unique warp nacelles that contained high-efficiency warp coils with directional subspace buffers. This meant that subspace distortions at stress could be directed away from weaker coils when they began to show stress during periods of extreme warp speeds or long-duration warp journeys. The fine-scale monitoring and field manipulation that this required was only possible with the newly developed FTL isolinear computer cores that the Ambassador class was fitted with, in combination with highly sensitive subspace sensors placed inside the nacelles. The Ambassador class was wildly successful, but also a victim of its own innovation. Research and development continued on the groundbreaking systems, improving them faster than they could be installed in the vessels, and it quickly became apparent that the Ambassador class wasn't able to keep up with technological development. Production was halted on further space frames, replacing newer construction with the vastly superior Galaxy class beginning in the 2360s. Now I turn it over to Ron for adjustments.
you see, generally, and this is generally, the agreed upon entry date for the Ambassador class is a hell of a lot earlier. 2319. You can see the problem.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Apart from that, I think it's still
Mostly accurate.
yeah.
Now we're gonna get into the saucer separation crap. Does this
Yes.
look like it's capable of separating? I don't see any seams. Nothing obvious like the Galaxy class.
Yeah. The book stats for the Ambassador class do include saucer separation, but really, I cannot see it.
Now, to be fair, maybe that was planned in the original model, the Narendra class, which eventually became the Narendra. But I don't see it.
I
There's
yeah,
still no
I don't
seam.
Yeah, I still don't see it. No seams.
Nothing like the galaxy. However, we will be generally treated. However, when I deliver my little lore spiel, it will be generally the same. However, there will be minor variations.
Yeah.
Alright, here we go.
So, yeah. Ambassador lore.
With the Kittimer Accords going swimmingly, and the Constitution class being slowly but surely retired, with very few examples being kept around as training vessels, and the Excelsior class being ramped up in production, as well as the general failure of the Lexington and Richmond classes, due to no small issue with them, it was decided that there would need to be a new super heavy cruiser. Something to get above the Excelsior class and do a long-term, long-range exploration mission. Enter Project Next Century, which would later be titled the Ambassador class. Originally, the Ambassador was just an evolved version of the Excelsior, and clearly the first prototype, USS Ambassador, which would later be redesignated, whose original class would later be named Narendra for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Was originally planned to have a saucer separation mode, a similar concept as would have been used in the, well, basically the same saucer separation as used in the Constitution and Excelsior classes. But this would be a lot more easier to reintegrate in the field, in case it was actually unnecessary, because, well, the original model actually had 3 impulse engines, allowing it to actually ditch the secondary hull and engage in combat as necessary. However, this was discovered to be superfluous, and, well, there were materials problems. Fortunately, this was an easy fix, and the original Ambassador was brought back into the yard in 2325 and refit rather heavily into the standard you see now. Now, there are quite a few. Now, I know some of you are going to be having issues with this. However, this is not quite as bad as the STD to TOS refit that some people seem to think is more than likely. Because, in a Narendra's case, it's just bulking up the secondary hull.
Yeah.
Everything else is good.
Yeah.
The neck is relatively the same size.
The saucer's about the same size, if not the exact same shape.
Again, bulk it up.
Yeah. And the nacelles are a little shorter.
Not to mention thicker to take advantage of new warp technologies. Because, you know, warp drive is an arcane thing.
Yeah.
And this became the new production standard. Of course, the refit delayed the class's introduction for a good 10 years, because they needed to test the whole thing.
Yes.
Thus, when the ship finally entered serial production, including the USS Enterprise, Nova Charlie Charlie 1701 Charlie, the Century Cruiser project was well underway, which kind of made the Ambassador kind of superfluous. Still necessary, because it was still going to take another 20 years to get the first Galaxy-class starship out in the field, but it was kind of superfluous after that point. And hell,
yeah.
even even three ambassador-class starships were actually turned into test beds for the Century Cruiser program. Two of those
Indeed.
being rather infamous: the USS Niagara and the USS Princeton.
Yeah.
3 guesses which one of those is the most famous.
The Niagara, it had its own class.
The Princeton.
Ah.
Stardate 44001.2. In other words, Wolf 35.
Ah.
In spite of its shortcomings, the Ambassador has many accomplishments to her name. She was the first starship to have a cruising speed of warp 8, the first starship to be refit, to utilize isolinear computer systems from basically the start, though the Ambassador did use the same duotronic systems that the Ambassador did for...
that the
Excelsior did for general testing during her early days, but other than that, almost every Ambassador was built with isolinear systems.
And the Ambassador was also the first starship to utilize the new phaser bank technology.
Though, to be fair, this was originally tested on the Yamato class.
But not phaser bank, phaser array technology.
Again, this was also tested on the Yamato class. The
Yeah.
boats from SFC.
Yeah.
But by the Dominion War, these ships were basically obsolete, and even a refit to the Yamaguchi standard, which, again, was more of a test bed for the general configuration of the Galaxy class, for obvious reasons. I mean, just
Yeah.
look at the position of the nacelles. They are
Yeah.
a lot lower. So,
Yeah.
the Yamaguchi was a Galaxy general form test bed. And
Yeah,
the
even
Narendra class would be resurrected in the early 25th century, in both her original form and a more modernized version.
Yeah. And then there's also the Hortaio variant.
Horatio.
Horatio.
But that is a story for another time.
Yes.
So that's the Ambassador class. Now for the USS Thacher herself, which was...
Well, first let's cover the Ambassador stats and both the book form and our adjusted form. For stats, the Ambassador in Utopia Planitia has comms 9, computers 9, engines 9, sensors 9, structure 9, weapons 9, and 1 point each in command, con, and science for departments. Scale 5 starship. Weapons, it has phaser arrays, photon torpedoes, and a strength 4 tractor beam. And for talents, they have high-resolution sensors, improved impulse drive, and saucer separation, which we know doesn't work on this thing. Anyway, our version entered service 2319 and removes the saucer separation trait and removes 1 point from computers. The first refit point in 2329 will go into computers, bringing this thing back up to book stats. Anyway, now for the Thacher.
The USS Thacher was one of the first Ambassador-class starships built to the production-style Ambassador class, which is how the ship, when she finally left in 2325, is generally referred to. The original version, the Narendra,
Yeah.
pre-production type. eventually getting renamed to her own class, but that's another story. The Thacher, named after famous/infamous British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Again, see the beginning of the vid about my thoughts on the matter. Don't care. Generally served as an exploration cruiser, in similar roles that would eventually be taken over by the Enterprise D and her Galaxy-class sisters. In fact, she was one of the few ships to actually respond to the distress call at Narendra 3, but she was 8 hours slower than the Enterprise, and arrived just before Klingon forces did. Though the Klingons obviously discovered the Romulans fighting the Enterprise and, well, weapon signatures hitting the colony were clearly Romulan.
Yep.
Still, the Thacher towed what was left of the Enterprise C, along with her Klingon escorts, back to Federation space. The Thacher would have served at the Battle of Wolf 359, but she was undergoing a minor retrofit at Utopia Planitia, so she missed the battle.
Yeah.
The Thacher seems to be linked to a great number of missing events, quite unlike her historical counterpart. She missed participating in the blockade during the Klingon Civil War. She did not respond quickly enough to DS9's aid during the brief Federation Klingon incident of 2372 to 73. Sorry.
3. Yep. And
she did not survive the Dominion War. In fact, she was ambushed during the Breen attack on Earth and was the first ship to actually be destroyed there. I would feel sorry for her, but she lived an ignominious life. Just missing everything, only to die.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, she slowed them down long enough for the Enterprise and the Cairo to actually do something about it.
Yeah.
So, that's the Thacher.
Yes. Now, let's get some stats into her. First up, registry number, NCC. Let's see.
24813.
24813. Okay. And I'm assuming, given the lore, I'm assuming the commission date would be like late 2320s for the ship itself.
Yup.
We'll put 2329 or 2326. Well, we'll do 2326. And let's see. And our proper stats for this thing will be representative of the time of her destruction, so 2375.
Yeah, pretty much. This poor ship just never, ever got a lucky break.
Yeah. So, let's see. First up, let's see. From 2319 to 2375, that's 56 years around. That's 5 points. So 2335 to 2375 would be 4 years, so 4 points from there. So yeah, that works. First refit point, bring computers up to 9. We have 4 more points we can spend.
Question is, what to put them in?
Yeah. Let's see. Thinking. I'm thinking maybe 1 point each in comms and sensors, at least.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. That leaves 2 more points.
Hmm.
Computers and structure?
Yeah, probably.
Alright. Now, mission profile. We could do multi-role explorer. We could do scientific and survey.
Well, it actually depends on her era. I mean, seriously, this ship did serve the same general job as the Enterprise and other Galaxy-class starships.
Right. Let's see. Let me check. Um, let's see. I think I'll probably. I think we'll do a multi-role explorer for this one.
Probably a good idea.
Multi-role explorer. So that brings our. So with a 2 in everything, that brings our departments up to Command 3, Con 3, Security 2, Engineering 2, Science 3, Medicine 2. And for a mission profile talent, a multi-role explorer gives us the following options: improved hull integrity, improved power systems, redundant systems, secondary design, rugged design, and secondary reactors.
Hmm. Well, she is most certainly rugged. I mean, breaking
All right.
the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It is a
Rugged.
very tough model.
Yeah. Rugged design. And we have room for 2 more talents after that. So let's see. We have rugged design. We have high resolution sensors, improved impulse drive. I'm still going to look to the remaining options in the multi-role explorer list for first. So we've got improved hull integrity, +1 resistance, improved power systems, redundant systems, and secondary reactors. Secondary reactors is +5 power. Improved power systems is whenever a character succeeds at a power management task, the ship gains 2 power per momentum spent, repeatable instead of 1. Basically doubles power regen. Or redundant systems. If a system becomes damaged or disabled, the crew may choose to activate the backups as a minor action. If a system was damaged, it is no longer damaged. If it was disabled, it becomes damaged instead. A system's backups may only be activated once per adventure, so subsequent damage will have the normal effect. That's like suffering breaches and all that.
Well, that's entirely up to you, Take.
We'll give this thing improved hull integrity. integrity, and redundant systems. Now, which system gets the redundancy? Comms, computers, engines, sensors, structure, or weapons?
Probably structure. For obvious reasons.
Yep. Redundant systems structure. Now, for derived values, we have resistance 6, scale 5, plus improved hull integrity. Power 9, same as our engine's value. Shields are structure plus security, so that is 12. And of course, the standard stats for the phaser arrays and photon torpedoes. Those will be in the document, but we don't need to worry about you don't need to worry about them right now. You can read them when we get there. When this thing goes live.
Anywho, I do believe that is our boat.
Yep, I figure it still just has the basic Federation Starship descriptor trait.
Perhaps unlucky would be a good one.
Yeah, Federation Starship unlucky.
Unlucky is a freaking catch-all for this poor ship.
Yeah.
She did absolutely nothing during her life of note.
Yeah. She did the standard duties of an ambassador and did them decently, but when it came to the big events, she either just didn't make it in time or didn't play much of a role.
And in the case of the attack on Earth, was the first victim.
Yeah. Now, I don't remember if we've done some of the other ambassador variants, but we might. Let me check over my list. The one most likely that we might have done would be the Narendra. Let's see. No, does not look like we've done the Narendra.
And I doubt we've done the Yamaguchi either.
No, nope, we haven't, and definitely haven't done the Horatio.
And we'll deal with that another time.
Yeah, we can do either of those. We can do any of those or all of those later.
Anyway,